Gentlemen, let me start with a simple but uncomfortable truth. At some point after 60, every man begins to wonder whether his best days of energy, confidence, and bedroom performance are behind him. You might not admit it out loud, but late at night, lying awake, the thought creeps in. What if this is just how it is from now on? But here's the shocking thing. For many men, the difference between fatigue and vitality, between restless nights and deep sleep, between struggling in intimacy and standing tall with confidence, can come down to just one simple herb taken at the right time. Now, before you roll your eyes and think, "I've heard this before," I'm going to tell you something that may surprise you. The herb itself isn't the secret. Millions of men around the world already know its name. Some of them have even tried it. But the truth is, 9 out of 10 men are using it the wrong way. They're taking it at the wrong time, in the wrong form, and with the wrong expectation. And instead of restoring their energy and performance, it leaves them disappointed, frustrated, and even worse off than before. The herb I'm talking about is ashwagandha. Yes, ashwagandha, the so-called king of herbs in Ayurvedic medicine, known for centuries as a stress reliever and vitality booster. But here's the part almost no one talks about. When taken casually, during the day, or without a protocol, ashwagandha does almost nothing. In fact, for older men especially, taking it at the wrong time can blunt your energy, interfere with your natural hormone rhythm, and make performance issues worse. That's why most men who try it once end up quitting, thinking it was all hype. But let me be absolutely clear. When used correctly, specifically as part of a simple nighttime ritual, ashwagandha can become one of the most powerful tools to restore male vitality after 60. Not only for harder erections but for deeper sleep, stronger testosterone support, and the kind of morning energy that makes you feel 10 years younger. I didn't always believe this myself. In fact, I dismissed ashwagandha for years. I thought it was just another overhyped supplement that promised the world but delivered nothing. But I'm Dr. Mei Anderson, and in my 25 years as a men's health specialist, I've treated thousands of men struggling with fatigue, low testosterone, and declining performance. What I discovered about ashwagandha, and the right way to use it, completely changed my perspective. One of the cases that opened my eyes was George, a 72-year-old retired engineer. George came into my office exhausted. He had tried prescription sleep pills that left him groggy, testosterone boosters that spiked his blood pressure, even energy drinks that made his heart race. Nothing worked. He looked me in the eye and said, "Doc, I don't care about living to 100 if I have to feel this weak and restless. I just want one good night's sleep and one good morning where I feel like a man again." George had tried ashwagandha before once. He bought it at a pharmacy, took a capsule with his morning coffee, and felt absolutely nothing. A week later, he gave up. But when I explained to him that ashwagandha isn't a daytime herb but a nighttime herb, and that its real magic only shows up when it works with your body's natural recovery window, at night, just before bed, he agreed to try again. This time, the results were almost unbelievable. Within 3 nights, George was falling asleep faster, staying asleep longer, and waking up rested. Within 2 weeks, his blood pressure had improved, his energy returned, and he told me, hesitant but with a grin, that his wife was noticing the difference in the bedroom too. Now, why did it work this time and not before? Because of what I call the bedtime window. You see, testosterone doesn't get built during the day when you're working, stressing, or moving around. It's built at night, when your body is in its deepest recovery phase. Growth hormone is released, cortisol drops, and your cells repair. But here's the catch. After 60, most men no longer reach that deep restorative phase consistently. Poor sleep, high stress, and lower hormone production block the cycle. That's why ashwagandha, when taken at the wrong time, is wasted. But when you take it just before bed, in the right form, it helps your nervous system relax, lowers cortisol, and allows your body to sink into the deep restorative sleep where testosterone is actually made. That's the hidden trigger. That's the difference between disappointment and transformation. And here's something even more shocking. Not all ashwagandha is created equal. Most bottles you find in pharmacies or online use a weak, powdered root form that barely absorbs into your system. That's why so many men try it and feel nothing. The form that actually works, clinically proven, is called KSM-66, a concentrated extract that contains the full spectrum of active compounds. When George switched to this version, taken just before bed with a small piece of fruit, the effect was night and day. He described it like this: "Doc, it feels like someone turned the lights back on inside me." But George is not an exception. In fact, in the last 5 years, I've seen dozens of men who had given up on ever feeling strong, confident, or rested again, completely transform their lives by using this simple bedtime protocol. Ronald, 68, who hadn't had a full night's sleep in a decade, told me he woke up one morning after starting the ritual and felt tears in his eyes, because it was the first time he'd opened his eyes and felt truly refreshed. Michael, 74, who thought his intimacy days were over, called me 1 month later with a nervous laugh saying, "Doc, I don't know how to tell you this, but I think my wife's happier than I am right now." Now, I'll be honest with you. When I first started prescribing this, I was nervous, because if it didn't work, my patients would lose trust in me. But the results were undeniable. Study after study now confirms what I've been seeing in my clinic. Ashwagandha, taken at night, not only improves sleep quality, but also significantly raises testosterone, improves sperm quality, lowers stress hormones, and boosts overall vitality. And these are not vague outcomes. We're talking measurable increases in testosterone by as much as 15 to 20% in older men, improved erection quality scores, and documented improvements in sleep cycles. But here's the detail almost no one knows. The detail that makes the difference between 500,000 men trying ashwagandha and shrugging it off, and 5 million men being blown away by what it does. It's this. Ashwagandha only unlocks its full power when combined with 2 other nighttime habits that almost every man is ignoring. One of them takes less than 30 seconds before bed. The other has nothing to do with supplements at all. Together, they create a synergy that multiplies the effect. And in just a moment, I'll show you exactly what those 2 steps are. Because George, Ronald, Michael, and dozens of others who experienced transformations didn't just use ashwagandha. They used it as part of what I call the 3-step bedtime protocol. And once you understand it, you'll see why so many men fail with this herb, while others seem to rediscover the strength, energy, and confidence they thought was lost forever. And if you're the kind of man who doesn't just want to hear about solutions but actually wants to live them, then this is exactly why Vital Health Seniors exists. This channel is where men over 60 finally stop being left behind by generic advice and start learning the protocols that actually restore energy, performance, and confidence. So if you find yourself lying awake at night wondering whether your best years are gone, let me be blunt. Ignoring this is the fastest way to make sure they are. But if you want the truth, the tools, and the transformations that men like George and Ronald experienced, subscribing to Vital Health Seniors right now may be the single smartest health decision you make this year. Because what I'm about to show you in this 3-step protocol is not just theory. It's the reason so many men are quietly getting their life back. And I'd hate for you to miss it. Now, why did it work for George this time when it had failed before? The answer is surprisingly simple, but also the exact reason most men quit before they see results. You see, ashwagandha is what I call a rhythm herb. It doesn't just sit in your system like caffeine or sugar, forcing an artificial high. Instead, it works with your body's own internal rhythm, the circadian clock that governs sleep, recovery, and hormone release. And if you take it at the wrong time, it's like knocking on the wrong door. Nobody answers. But when you align it with the body's nighttime repair cycle, something powerful happens. Growth hormone spikes, cortisol is calmed, and your testosterone is protected instead of drained. That's why George, for the first time in years, woke up with energy and a strong morning erection after just 2 weeks. And here's the shocking part. Most supplement labels don't even tell you this. They'll say, take once or twice daily with food. Which sounds harmless, right? But for a man over 60, taking it during the day often has the opposite effect. It makes you drowsy when you should be alert, and then restless when you should be sleeping. It's no wonder so many men believe these herbs don't work. The truth is, the herb isn't broken, the instructions are. Now let me pause here and say something important. Gentlemen, if you're nodding your head right now because you've been misled before, if you've ever spent money on vitamins or herbs that let you down, then I want you to do 2 things. First, don't feel embarrassed. You're not alone. Millions of men are in the exact same position. Second, I want you to realize how critical it is that more men hear the real science. That's why I make these videos. And that's why if you're finding this valuable, I want you to hit that like button. Not for me, but so that YouTube shows this message to the very men who are out there right now wasting their money, feeling frustrated, and thinking there's no hope left. Every time you like, share, or comment, you're helping push back against misinformation and giving another man a chance to reclaim his vitality. Trust me, you'd want someone to do the same for you if you were in the dark. Now let's go deeper into why this bedtime method works so dramatically. At night, your nervous system has two possible modes: fight or flight, or rest and repair. Ashwagandha, when taken just before bed, helps shut off the stress switch. That means lower nighttime cortisol, less tossing and turning, and more time spent in deep restorative sleep. And here's the kicker. Deep sleep isn't just about feeling rested. It's the single biggest trigger for natural testosterone release. In fact, studies show that just 1 week of poor sleep can drop a man's testosterone by as much as 15%. Imagine compounding that over months or years. No wonder so many men feel decades older than they are. And here's where it ties into energy and erections. Testosterone isn't just a hormone. It's the master signal for vitality. When your body produces more of it at night, you wake up sharper, with more drive, and your blood vessels respond better. That's why men who master this bedtime ritual don't just sleep better. They perform better. George told me that after 3 weeks on this protocol, his wife looked at him differently. Not just because he was sleeping soundly, but because he was showing up in the bedroom with confidence he hadn't felt in years. And I'll tell you something. Confidence is contagious. It spills over into every area of life. His kids noticed his energy was back. His golf buddies noticed his stamina improved. That's the real secret. It's not just about the herb. It's about what happens when you finally get your biology working for you, not against you. But let me warn you. There's one mistake that can cancel out everything I've just said. And it's the mistake I see nearly every man over 60 making. They combine ashwagandha with the wrong bedtime habits. For example, some men will wash it down with alcohol or late-night snacks. Others will take it right before staring at a bright screen for hours. Those simple choices sabotage the very repair cycle ashwagandha is trying to support. It's like pouring water on the fire you're trying to light. That's why, in just a moment, I'll give you the exact 3-step bedtime protocol I teach my private patients. It's not complicated. In fact, it's almost too simple. But it works because it removes the hidden roadblocks that sabotage men night after night. And when you combine it with ashwagandha at the right dose and the right timing, that's when you unlock the kind of transformation George experienced. So if you've ever felt like your best years were behind you, if you've ever looked in the mirror and thought, where did my energy go? Where did my strength go? Stay with me, because what I'm about to share could help you turn that around in less than a month. So here it is, the 3-step bedtime protocol that has restored vitality, confidence, and performance for men in their 60s, 70s, and even 80s. Step 1 is timing. The golden window for ashwagandha is about 30 to 45 minutes before bed. Not at dinner. Not in the morning. This is when your nervous system begins to downshift into repair mode. Taken too early, and the effect fades before it's needed. Taken too late, and you're still wide awake when you should be drifting off. This window makes all the difference. Step 2 is pairing. Ashwagandha works best with a simple glass of warm water or milk. Yes, milk, just like your grandmother might have told you. Why? Because certain natural fats and proteins help unlock its active compounds, making absorption smoother and longer lasting. This is where most men unknowingly cut their results in half. They swallow it with coffee, alcohol, or soda, which blocks absorption and stresses the very system we're trying to restore. Keep it simple. Warm water or milk. Nothing else. Step 3 is the environment. Your body cannot fully enter the repair cycle if you're blasting your brain with artificial light or stimulation. That means no doom scrolling on your phone, no late-night news, and no harsh overhead lights. Instead, dim the lights, shut off the screens, and allow your nervous system to shift into parasympathetic mode, the healing mode. When you combine this with ashwagandha in the right window, it's like flipping a biological switch. Cortisol drops, melatonin rises, and testosterone is spared instead of stolen. That's why men who follow this ritual not only sleep deeper, but wake up feeling years younger. George followed this exact routine, and within a month his doctor couldn't believe the numbers. His blood pressure normalized. His energy doubled. His testosterone climbed back into the range of a man 20 years younger. But more than that, George himself couldn't believe the mirror. He looked leaner, sharper, and his wife said his eyes had that spark again. The spark she thought was gone forever. Now let me ask you something. Doesn't it bother you that no one told you this sooner? That instead of being given simple, proven steps, men like you were left to figure it out alone. Wasting money, losing confidence, and being told to accept aging, as if it's some kind of sentence? It angers me every time I think about it. And it's exactly why I share this information openly. But here's the truth. What I just gave you is only the beginning. There are at least 5 other common health habits men over 60 are told to follow that are actually draining testosterone, destroying sleep, and wrecking performance. If you stop at ashwagandha, you'll see improvement. But if you ignore the other hidden saboteurs, you're still leaving decades of vitality on the table. That's why if you haven't already subscribed, you need to do it right now. Because in the next videos, I'll show you which so-called heart-healthy vegetables secretly crush male hormones, the morning routine that triples nitric oxide production, and the overlooked mineral deficiency that could be the single biggest reason for poor performance after 60. If you think you can just remember to come back and search for it later, let me be blunt, you won't. Life gets busy, videos get buried, and by the time you realize it, you'll still be stuck with the same problems. Subscribe now, because this channel is one of the only places on the internet where men are told the unfiltered truth about their health and performance. And if you're still on the fence, think about this. If George had clicked away before hearing this protocol, he would still be struggling today. The only reason he turned it around was because he stayed, listened, and acted. Ask yourself, what will it cost you if you miss the next breakthrough? What will it cost your confidence, your relationships, your health? You don't need to guess. You don't need to gamble. You just need to subscribe, so you don't miss what could be the one change that puts everything back in your favor. Gentlemen, I'll leave you with this. Aging is inevitable. Decline is not. Men who learn the truth, who take back control of their biology, live decades with energy, strength, and confidence others can only envy. You now know the bedtime ritual that makes it possible. The question is, will you put it into action? Will you stay with me for what's coming next? If your answer is yes, then hit that subscribe button right now, because the next step in your transformation is already waiting.